Hey y'all, what's going on? I am Crash This Goat, and I am here with you again to hang out for a little while. I hope everyone is doing well. Everything is going good with me. I did not get rained on today, which is great. I wasn't sure because it said that there might be some afternoon showers, but I did not get wet. And to be honest with you, last night when I rode home in all that rain on the Ducati, well, first it was on the ZX10. I got caught in the rain, and then I rode the Ducati through a lot more rain coming home. I didn't even get that wet. My shoes got water in them and stuff like that, but I just, pulled the inserts out and put a towel down inside my shoes, and I kind of like squeeze it like with the towel, and then I put my shoes underneath the ceiling fan with the tongue pulled open so air can flow down in there. And I set my gloves right there, and I kind of open them up. I set my gloves there, and then the little inserts, like I rinse them out. I clean everything, and then I use the towel to kind of dab them dry. And then by the time, even before morning, it's like all dry again. It wasn't even that wet, but my pants were wet, and so I just put them in the laundry. And as soon as I came in, I just, hopped in the shower, just peel everything off. And I had my leather jacket on, which I never wear if I think it might rain. But I didn't see any rain in the forecast, and it just came up out of nowhere. So I got caught in my leather jacket, and the leather jacket got a little bit of wet, but hardly any water even got in while I was wearing it. But it has that knit on the front side of the sleeves. It's leather on the back side, but on the inside it's like this knit, so it flows air, and it really works well. I didn't get any hotter. See, because I have a textile, which really breathes quite a bit. And then I've been wearing that one mostly out in the heat, but then I just started wearing the leather one, and I'll tell you, I haven't really felt much difference as far as heat goes. But when I got caught in the rain, the leather jacket did keep me a lot drier than my textile one, because if you hold it up to like light or whatever, you'll be able to see right through it, except for the back protector. So it's like mesh almost, so it's like you can see through it, so water just comes right into it. But it also is easy to dry. But usually when I get caught in the rain, I'll throw it in the washing machine. But I don't dry it. I don't put it in the dryer. I'll take it out of the washing machine, and I'll just hang it on a chair or something. And then it dries like super fast. But I didn't get that wet yesterday. I mean, I was, but by comparison, for how much it was raining, and the Ducati, it wasn't even that dirty. After I got off the live stream here with you guys last night, I went down into the garage and I wiped it down. There wasn't hardly anything on it. It's crazy. And the ZX10 wasn't that dirty either. Kind of weird. Sometimes they get really dirty in the rain, and sometimes they don't. One thing I notice is if it's still raining by the time you get home and pull your bike into the garage, it's almost like the rain just flushes it all off before it has a chance to really dry onto the bike. But it was barely even dirty. After all that rain, it's like the heavier the rain, the cleaner the bike is for some reason. It's like a light shower, and the roads are wet, but then it's not raining anymore. You're getting all that grime, and then there's no rain to wash it off of the bike as it's getting onto it. So it just gets up onto the bike and just dries, and you got all that road grime like all over it. I've ridden that bike a lot in the rain, and it's still clean as can be. But I will tell you, after going out to the forest and all those rocks, man, I've got like a lot of rock chips all over the front of that bike, like on the nose and on the side, like on the side fairings in the front, like where the radiator is, like on the front lips, and then all over my frickin' front fender and everything. It's had some rock chips, like little divots and stuff like that, just from riding it for the past 4 years. But it really has gotten a lot going out to the forest, man. I was just getting chewed by it. Was just like, phew. And then last night I also took the air filter out, the Sprint air filter, and I just know rocks are getting into the air in induction, right? Like where the ram air is. And I was right. Whenever I pulled that filter out, there was like little rock chips that were in the filter. And I was like, well, that's nice. That's what you want. You want rock chips flying up into your air intake. But the filter stops them. But if you have a hole in your filter or something and one of those goes through, oh man, you don't want to think about that. I mean, they were like little pebbles, but still, yeah, it's nasty out there, folks. It's nasty out there when it comes to the rocks. The roads are just like the road. It's not even. I don't even know what you'd call this. Like you know where the guy wrecked on the CBR, right? And I showed you that asphalt there. It's like a blacktop. That's like traditional blacktop. But where we're riding on most of these country roads, it's almost like they laid down a bunch of rocks and then poured some kind of something to glue it all together. It's like glued together rocks is what it is. And then we ride over that, and then the tires are sticky on these bikes, and plus the acceleration is it's breaking them loose out of the road surface. Or the cars, and just all the cars that drive on them, they loosen them up, and then when we go over them, whoever's in front of you is kicking them up like a rooster tail almost, and it's just destroying, the finish on the bike for sure. I like going out there; it's a lot of fun, but man, it takes a toll on the bike for sure. But I guess that if I keep this bike, into the future, which I don't have any plans on getting rid of it right now. The thing is just running like really good. It does have that freaking problem with the communication error between the ECU and the dash, though. I have to get that fixed. It's almost like every time I ride it now, it keeps coming on, and it's so frustrating. The warning lights are coming on, saying that, hey, your rider aids are no longer functioning. I mean, not that I rely on them that much, but I don't want anything to be wrong with my bike, And I talked to Dave up there at B1. He goes, yeah, bring it in, but I don't know when I'll be able to get to it. I mean, I'm stacked with bikes right now. So if I drop it off, it's going to be a month. It'll be a freaking month without the bike for sure. At least. Who knows how long it would be. But it only started doing that after they did the Desmo. So there has to be a plug or something. The other option I have is that I can go down in the garage and I can take the tank off and just start looking at the wiring and all that stuff and seeing what's going on. I think I'll probably try to do that before I drop it off to them. But, I could take it apart and look at it, and I may not be able to find anything either because I'm not an expert. I don't have the testing equipment or anything like that, But it would have to be something that I could see visually. It could be a small break in the wire to where, like in the wire, if it gets like a stress fracture or something, and then it's still making contact, but then when it starts to vibrate, then it can break contact like that. And then as soon as it breaks contact, if it's a stressed wire or something, I'm never going to be able to find that shit. If that's what it is. Because you have to unwrap everything and you have to look at all the wires and you have to know exactly which one. I mean, it may not be that complicated. It could be just like the plug or something. It's just kind of loose, or could be something like that. It's the communication error from the dashboard, the display, to the ECU. So at least the code tells me exactly where to look for it. So that helps a lot. So anyway, that's my intro, folks. That's my intro. Do we have people here? Yeah, we got people here tonight. I see you guys. Miki, what's up, dude? D4S, baby. Sonny, what's up, Sonny? Who owns the media? Go. What's the best bike money can buy? Also, is the Lambo bike worth it? No. No, absolutely not. Because it's kind of ugly. I mean, I don't know. I don't really. I mean, it's the traditional regular duck looks better than the Lambo, and it's not. I mean, look, Ducati and Lamborghini are owned by Audi, all right, or the same company that owns Audi. So they are all a conglomerate, so to speak. but it's not a Lamborghini. Okay, they just put Lamborghini badges on it, and it's kind of unique and cool, I guess. But you're just paying a lot more just to have the Lambo edition, which, it's a business that they make limited editions and all that. I'm not opposed to that necessarily, but you're asking me, is the Lambo worth it? In my opinion, absolutely not, because the regular V4S is going to perform exactly. It's the same motor and all that stuff. The Lambo doesn't have any more power. It just looks different. That's all it is. And I know that Fastlane D has one, and he's talking about painting it and shit. And whenever he first got it, I watched it, right? Because I wanted to see what the bike looked like. And then he started saying, we're going to mod this bike and we're going to make it I'm going to paint he started talking about a bunch of crazy shit, right? And I'm like, I left a comment saying, anything other than an exhaust and a tune and a filter, if you do anything besides those things, you're nuts. You've lost your freaking mind. I would not, if I spent the extra, say money's no object and you just want it, okay, it's worth it to you just to have it, okay, that's a different thing, I think, than we're talking about. But if you're in that circumstance like he is, I guess, but then you're gonna paint it and shit. What? That's the whole reason why you buy that, is to get that version of it. I don't know, man. He's done some questionable things with styling before. He's put those Fastlane D tire letters on and stuff, and it's just that's kind of questionable. Fastlane D, if you're listening to me, man, or if somebody wants to run over there and tell them I said this, I'll be more than happy to back it up. Yeah, I said it. Tire lettering is not cool, bro. And then I think he's done away with that, though. And then painting your Lamborghini edition V4 Ducati, that's absolutely crazy to do that and take it from somebody who painted a Ducati already. All right. I felt like I needed to do that at the time, and I regretted doing it. And it was cool while I had it or whatever, but it was a huge mistake. I should not have done that. So Fastlane D, take it from somebody who's already made that error. Okay. So I'm not casting judgment on you personally by doing it, but I was crazy for doing mine. And then you're even crazier for taking an even more special edition bike and painting it or doing some shit to it. The whole point of getting it is to have that edition. It's nuts to do anything. Look, he's got an exhaust, and he should have went with the Acura exhaust on it, by the way, instead of the Spark. I know he wants to be different or whatever, but screw that. Just put the best one on there. And it's almost like a tradition because, Acura has an account, or they have a collaboration with Ducati, and I think the right exhaust to put on that bike is the if you can afford it, and he can, because he's big time, you know what I mean? He's big time D is what he is, because he was the chosen one with YouTube because he was willing to play ball with them, which I don't blame him for. It's really paid off for him, which is cool. But he's big time, and he should have just went with the Acura system and kept it traditional. The thing about the Ducks is there is a certain tradition, the thing, there's a certain way of doing things with these, and if you don't do it just right, then it just seems wrong, and I put a CS Racing on mine because I'm poor. You know what I mean? It's weird that I even have this bike. I'm not having a lot of extra cash, right? So it's weird that I was able to get it, but I got it, and then I had to leave it stock for a long time because the bike ran so good, just factory, it runs amazing. And I know when you change it, it can cause, because when I did my freaking R6, it did never idle right and shit like that. So I had kind of a bad taste in my mouth from doing it. I thought, man, I'm just going to leave it alone. Plus, I have it under warranty. I don't want any questions during the life. But see, the warranty's almost gone now, so I figured just go ahead and put the exhaust and tune on it at this point. And that's what I did. But I put the CS Racing on mine. But the CS, and Scotty has that on his too. So I already saw how it worked on his bike. And Scotty bike was super fast. I mean, he would skywalk me. And you know, he's kind of a bigger fellow, right, than I am. And he would be able to skywalk me. My bike was fast as shit, stock, right? And I weigh a lot less than he does. And on top, he would just like much faster, like just leave me up on, like I'm struggling right at 185, and you know it's creaking past 185, but I can feel the restriction shutting the bike down, even though I've got it wide open. The computer was saying no more for you, and then Scotty just leaving me up top like 200 miles an hour, you know, without any problem for him. And so I got the same exhaust that he got. And it runs like an animal, like an absolute beast. So I'm kind of just all over the place tonight, right? So I kind of forgot what we were talking about. I remember. So what's the best bike money can buy? Well, you know, what does that mean? What does that mean? Are you talking about the best bang for your buck? Right? There's a couple of different categories for this. So if you're talking about under $20,000, you can get an amazing, like Rob's ZX10. It's an amazing bike, and he spent like under $15K for it. And it's fast, and it's smooth, and it looks great, and it sounds great. It's a ton of fun to ride. And it's going to be super reliable, like bulletproof, I guess, if I was to guess. Man, the Kawasaki's I had never went to the shop, not a single time. I heard somebody saying something like you got to get the valves checked. Okay, that's one of the things you might have to do is check the valves on it, because you don't want any problems, right? So that's just good, solid maintenance. But the point that I'm making is, for 15 grand, at least in his case, or let's just say under $20,000, you can get a lot of performance, like a Gixxer or the ZX10, the R1. R1 costs more than 20 grand though. Back in what was it, 2022, I paid 22,000 and some change for mine out the door. That was just the Raven. It wasn't the M or anything like that. So if you're looking like around 20 grand, you can get a lot of performance. Now, to go up from there, like say the Triple R Fireblade or the M Series S1K or the R1M or say the Ducati, right? Now you're talking about a huge price increase, like another more than 10 grand. Another 50, so double the price. Actually, my V4S, even though it's 4 years older than the ZX10 that Rob has, is more than double the cost. It's twice as much plus another 3 grand. So you could have two of those ZX10s and $3,000, $3,600 in your pocket, or the V4, a 4-year-old V4S, right? Which is what I have. Let me just say, like, whenever you graduate from the entry-level super bike, which is around 20,000 plus or minus, depending, and then you go up into the higher tier, you're going to get like that Triple R is going to dust. It's absolutely going to dust the ZX10. It's just going to destroy it for the extra 10 grand or whatever, right? Well, more than that, because that Triple R is over $30,000, but it's a completely different bike. It's got a hell of a lot of performance. So you're going to get all the things and more. You're going to get the electronic suspension. You're going to get all this stuff. And then the R1M, a lot of people think probably isn't worth it, except for it's cool with its carbon and its special paint job. But it's the same motor, and the R1 isn't that fast, but compared to the other bikes. So just scratch that one off, because unless you just love that bike, which I do, right? But most people wouldn't probably do it. Just get a regular R1 and it'll be just as good. And that's what I was going to get an R1M in the beginning, and I just switched it to the Raven because I could see that it wasn't going to be worth the extra 10 grand. And then if you start getting up into like V4S territory, you're going to get a hell of a lot more. But you're paying you got to pay twice as much. But so you got the entry level super bike category. And if you talk about best, just like the ZX10, that's probably the best bike for the money right there. Or the Gixxer, right? Or the base. I don't want to say the S1K because those things they're not reliable. They've got a lot of people have had issues with those. So I kind of am hesitant to include that in any list. But if you're talking like on a mid-range level, like say we're not focusing on the 20 grand ish area, and we're not going to go up to 80 grand or whatever that Lamborghini version V4 is, and we're not going to 100 grand, and the new Centario or whatever it is, Super Leggera, which is like 200 grand or some shit now. I don't know. Well, I'm not talking about that super top tier. What I'm talking about is in the mid-range, where you're talking about the Ducati V4S or the V4R, what is it, that Extrenta Aprilia or whatever it is. You're talking about bikes in that category. I think those are probably the best bikes for the money, because you just get so much more. Like I was saying last night, and no shame on the ZX10. Just keep in mind, it's a $15,000 bike against a more than double the price bike in the V4S that I have. It's completely different, right? You do get more for paying twice as much, is what I'm saying. You can have two ZX10s, and that's more than one ZX10, right? That's double. That's double the ZX10. If you spend $30,000, you can have double the ZX10, right? So it's not unreasonable to think that if you're going to spend more than double for the next tier up and you go with a V4S, you can expect to get more out of it. You're going to get more power, more mid-range torque, and you have an electronics suite that is much more advanced than on the ZX10. And then the handling, the design characteristic is far different. It's much lighter. It has forged wheels. It's got the electronic suspension. It's got a motor that's not only a V4, which has its own benefit characteristics over an inline 4, but it also spins backwards. That they made it counter rotating. You don't get that. There isn't, as far as I know, the V4 is the only bike that offers that. That's a very exclusive feature that you'll only find in MotoGP. You're not going to find it on any other street bike that I'm aware of. I mean, I may be wrong. There may be another street bike out there with a counter-rotating motor, but not to my knowledge. I'd have to look it up, and I'm not going to do that right now. So I'm just going to assume that the V4 is the only one. The best bike for the money might be just the regular base model V4. That's probably the sweet spot right there, because you don't need electronic suspension. In fact, when you go out and ride, like on the routes that we're riding, I have it in fixed mode. I'm not using the dynamic suspension. Now, if I'm out cruising on the highway and stuff, the dynamic is fine. But if you're blasting at top speed in turns over bumps, like you're doing 185 diving into turns and you're hitting bumps as you're going through all that, it's too much for the adaptive nature of the electronic suspension to keep up with. It won't keep up with it. The environment's changing. The road surface is changing too quickly for it, and it's trying to adapt, and it can't do it. It's not made for that. So what I'm saying is if you get the regular V4, you can set it for you the way that you need it with the manual adjust. It's not on the dash. You got to do it with a screwdriver and a wrench or whatever, just like almost any other bike. And then, but you still have the same motor with all the same power. However, you don't get forged wheels. You get cast wheels, which are heavier than the forged wheels. So you're going to have a little bit of reduction in performance, like acceleration, braking, turning, because of the heavier wheels. But you probably wouldn't even notice it, right? You know, unless you rode both bikes back to back. Then the one with the forged wheels, you're going to be like, oh, shit, okay. But it's still better than any other. Like if you were to get a base model V4, not the S, just the entry-level V4, that is going to be the best bang bike for your buck, period, bar none. There isn't anything that can touch it. And I don't even know how much it costs. Let me see. I think it's like 25 grand. 25 or 27, something like that. Let me ask. How much is the 2020? Let's do 2025. Well, we are in 2026. Let's ask for 2026. 26 base model V4 Ducati Panigale. You have to say Panigale, or else it might think you're talking about a Street Fighter. So right here, look, 27,795. Okay, so it's more than 25, and I said maybe 27. So here it is. The manufacturer's suggested retail price for the 26 base model Ducati Panigale V4 starts at 27,795. You cannot beat that for what you're getting. And it doesn't come with a lithium battery. It comes with a regular lead acid battery, which is heavier. So you get heavier wheels, heavier battery, and you don't get the electronic suspension. But all the other stuff is the same. And you cannot, there is no way that you can beat this bike. And look right here. Here's a price comparison. So the V4, 27,795, the 1100cc motor, Desmo Sedici Stradale engine, new twin-sided swing arm, Showa Sachs mechanical suspension. And then to jump up to the S, which is what I have, but the 2022 version, it's $35,595. Mine, when I bought mine, it was $29,995 is what it is. It was $30K. So they've gone up by $5,595 for the new version. So they've increased by $5,000. The same bike, basically, right? Well, the same model, but with the new advancements. So it has the same engine, upgraded, but it has the upgraded Olin Smart EC 3.0. Mine's a 2.0, I believe. Electronic suspension, lighter forged aluminum wheels. So it comes with the forged wheels. And the other thing you're going to get is the lithium battery, which is much like pounds lighter. One weighs like 9 pounds, and the lithium is like 1 pound or something, if that. And then the V4R, which is an 11, not 11, but a 1000 cc basically. Carbon fiber components, dry clutch, and extreme racing aerodynamics. But that's $49,995. So for 50 grand, you get 100 less cc's, and then it kills the mid-range. This bike right here, it revs higher and all that stuff, but it doesn't have the same torque through the mid-range. It's not, the V4R is not a great street bike when compared to the regular the V4S is the way to go for the street because of all of that. Let me tell you something. I've ridden bikes where you have to rev it out like the ZX-10. That my R6 was like that. My Ninja ZX7 was like that. My Ninja 600 was like that. And I've ridden other bikes where you got to wrap them out, right? The traditional inline four, and that's fun. They sound great and everything. But then when I got the R1 with the cross-plane motor was designed to mimic a V4, and the R1 was so amazing compared to the regular inline four because it had all that mid-range. It had power everywhere, just like the V4. Now it has less power than the V4, but it had that same power band signature as the V4. It's very similar, but the V4 comes on a lot harder and a lot stronger. And then it pulls up higher and has more power up top and more speed up top. So the V4 is far superior over the Yamaha R1 crossplane, but they're very similar in power delivery. And I absolutely loved that about the R1 because it just, that extra mid-range is like so useful. It makes your ride so pleasant. So if you can have good top end and the mid-range, it's a much better option to go with than a regular flat plane, just for riding enjoyment and ease of power management. You don't have to shift as much, and it's just a far better power signature. It really is. Whenever I got back onto the V4 after riding the ZX10, it was like, whoo! It was like insane. The mid-range power. There was, by comparison, there was no mid-range power at all on the ZX10. It feels so flat by comparison. Is there anything wrong with it? No. You just have to shift more. You have to, and that's the point I'm making. It makes you work harder. You have to work harder, to get the freaking power out of it, because you have to shift it more. And I'm not opposed to that. Like I said, I would be happy to own one of those. I loved it so much. But what I'm describing here are the differences, and for the money, but it's almost twice as much as the ZX10 that Rob just got, even the base model V4. So it just depends on what your budget is and what you're trying to get out of it. But if you want the best bike for the money, in my opinion, and I love Japanese bikes. I swear by them. I love them. I've owned multiple of them. I love them. But they cannot touch the V4 Ducati. They none of the ones that I've ever ridden can even come close. Not the S1K or anything like that. Now the S1Ks are fast and stuff too, but you gotta wind them out. And when you tune them and all that stuff, they're fast too, like the Ducati is. But the power signature, the power band signature is not the same. And I just think the Ducati's a better bike, After having ridden, I've ridden three S1Ks. I've ridden the first one Tank had years ago, and then I rode the second one Tank had, and then I've rode Rob's. Now, out of those three, I've liked Rob's the most for some reason. His just seems to be better than the other ones. But for some reason, I don't know why. But I really like that bike. I like the way it felt. It felt good riding. It felt light on its feet. It was a cool bike. So I've ridden the S1K, so I know what it's like. But the V, I'm just telling you guys, and I'm not like I'm one of you. I'm one of the Japanese owners. I'm a Japanese motorcycle enthusiast my whole life. I never even imagined that I would own anything other than that. But then I thought, on a whim, let me try this bike, and I'm just telling you, okay, like we're a group, okay, all right, we all got our Japanese bikes, and they're like, okay, all right, like a Scout, right? Like I'm gonna like we're in the group and we're trying to figure out. So what do you think about that bike? I don't know, but here you guys wait right here, and I'm gonna go up ahead and I'm gonna try. I'm just gonna try it out, and then I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna tell you what I found out. Okay, it's like that. And then I get the bike, and now I've scouted it. I've tried it out, and I'm like, oh my god. Okay, now I've come back to you guys. This is me coming back, saying a Japanese bike lover coming back and saying, okay, it's really nice. It's really really nice. And ownership of it has been fantastic, by the way. Has it had some little quirks and issues along the way? Sure, but it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. So anyway, Hammerlin, what's up, dude? What about the RSV4 GOAT? Where does that line up in comparison out of all the bikes? I think it's up there. I really like the RSV4 too, but it is a heavier bike, and it does not have the Desmo valves in it. And I mean, that might be a good thing. It might be a bad thing. It just depends. And the motor spins forward. It spins the same direction. It's not a counter-rotating motor, so it doesn't have the same features as the Ducati does. And I think that the Ducati looks a lot better than the RSV4, although I love the way the RSV4 looks. But I think the Ducati just has it's just a different level of styling. You know, kind of like a Ferrari or something. You get that classic Ferrari look. The Ducati has that. It's just special like that compared to anything else. I'm not just saying that because I own it. I'm just saying I'm unbiased looking at all the different design characteristics. Nothing looks better than the Duck does. Now, the new one has been very controversial with the new changes, but the previous version, like the one that I have, that one is widely renowned as being the best looking sport bike out there. You can't get a better looking sport bike than that one. I think. Let me see what. I mean, I've read it in numerous places. It's widely known that one is the best looking one. But let me ask AI in terms of top tier super bikes, which one is considered the most beautiful? Oh shit. I've never looked this up, and look, here it is. Read the question. In terms of the top tier super bikes, which one is considered to be the most beautiful? These are the results. The Ducati Panigale V4 is widely considered the most beautiful top tier super bike today. People love its sharp red body line, sleek front face, and single-sided rear wheel swing arm. It blends raw speed with Italian art. So there you go. See, like, and it's referring to the one that I have. Sharp body panels that channel racing air cleanly under engine exhaust that looks like it's integrated, and it's not like an add-on to the side. It's actually integrated into the design of the bike, the underhanging exhaust. Single-sided swing arm showing off the rear wheel design, and aggressive dual headlamps built right into the front fairing. So anyway, and then you've got other top contenders right here. The MV Agusta F3 Brutale series. And then the Aprilia RSV4 is also a top contender. Praised for its aggressive, track-ready front nose and sharp tail. It is. And then the BMW S1K, famous for its bold, asymmetric look and modern winglet. So, as far as Italian, out of the two Italians, the Aprilia or the Ducati's got it, man. It's a lighter bike. It's got the counter-rotating motor. It's got the styling, the single-sided swing arm. The Aprilia doesn't have that. Now, they did away with it now, but referring to this generation, that we're talking about right here. It's just, I don't know. And I the the when you buy a new Ducati and you have it under warranty and stuff, and then if anything comes up and you deal with Ducati as a company, right, as a manufacturer, I can't even begin to tell you guys how great of an experience it is working with them. They truly care, and I've said this before, they truly care about you as their client. I'm not even kidding. They went above and beyond more than once whenever my bike was in the shop, and they reached out to me. They cared for me. They made me feel very happy that I was owning a Ducati, that I chose to buy the Ducati. Now, I don't know how Aprilia is. They might be just as good. I don't know. I've never bought one before. But I'm just telling you what I know and how I was treated by Ducati, from the big company down to just me, a client, who I bought one motorcycle from them, and they cared a lot. They went above and beyond to help me and to make me feel glad that I bought a Ducati. So that means something to me. They really are special in that way. And, they kick ass out on the track. And, Aprilia was doing good here recently, too. Look, you cannot go wrong with the Aprilia, I would say. I mean, it might have its own issues, all bikes do. Like somebody was saying, the ZX10, you gotta check the valves regularly, or else you might have a problem. That's a quirk. And the R1, it had a transmission flaw. It was way worse than my Ducati, and that's a Japanese bike. The problem that stemmed from that and created that nightmare scenario for me was the worst experience I've ever had in my life. That was awful. And that's a Japanese bike. Yamaha, fantastic manufacturer. They weren't as easy to work with. I mean, it was harder to work with them, much harder. And, the dealership, where I took it was hard to work with, and trying to get them to, it was like pulling teeth to get them to do stuff on it. So, but with the Ducati, it's ownership, being a Ducati client, you're like in a special club with them, that's how they make you feel. So, I'm just a regular person. I'm like, man, really? You're going to do that for me? Thanks. That's how I got an extended warranty. That they were doing something to the bike. They were replacing the rear cylinder head or whatever. And the bike was in the shop, and they're like, hey, we want to help you out, And they offered me something, and I was like, hey, instead of that, can you just give me an extra 2-year warranty on it? Because I thought, there ain't no way I'm going to still have the bike after that. That's going to get me through my complete ownership of the bike. And here I am, at the end of the year, it's going to be up. It'll be the end of the 2-year additional. But when you buy Ducati, you get 2-year warranty too. But anyway, I'm talking too much probably about this. But I would love to have an Aprilia. So please keep in mind, whenever I'm talking like this, I'm not shading any of the other bikes. Look, if you have the Aprilia RSV4, if you have the Ducati, whether it's the V4, V4S, or whatever, or if you have a ZX10, or if you have a Triple R Fireblade, or if you have a Yamaha R1, if you have a GSXR 1000, or any of the 600 versions of these bikes, or if you have a Panigale V2, or if you have a Street Fighter, or if you have an MT10, if you have any of these freaking bikes, you are doing really good. These are all fantastic machines. So what does it boil down to? It boils down to this: whatever you want, it comes down to what reaches you. Whenever you are, say you're bike shopping, say you're bike shopping, right? And you're like watching videos on YouTube, and you're looking at reviews, and you're looking at the pictures, and then you go to and you pick, something starts to like, you start to like, "Well, I kind of really like this one or whatever," and then you go to the dealership and you look at it and you're like, wow, it could be anything, no matter what it is. Here's what you want. Now, I understand, like, if you're out running with really fast guys and that's what you're doing, you're going to want something really fast that keeps up in this and that, right? Because nobody wants to be left behind or get outrun or whatever. That's kind of, it's not fun, if that's what the kind of riding you're doing. But just forget about that. Honestly, as somebody who participates in that quite a bit, it's not really about that. What is it about? It's really about riding a bike that whenever you look at it, you're in love. You're absolutely in love. And then whenever you throw a leg over and you sit on the bike, and then you crank it up, and then you put it in gear, and you let that clutch out, and you take off, and you're cruising down the road, the feeling you get about yourself and how you feel about yourself when you're on that machine, when you're cruising down the road on a beautiful day, and you're just feeling all right, you're just thinking, I feel amazing, and that's really what you're looking for. It's that feel that you get when you ride the machine. Now, that, who knows what that might mean to one person over here or another person over here. It's going to be different for everybody. Motorcycles are a very individual thing. And it's great that we have a lot of options to choose from. And that's why a couple of years ago, I was just screaming from the rooftops like, oh my God, they're going to start canceling all of these bikes that we love. But somehow we're still here. And I want those options out there. And even if, like, for example, I'm not into Harleys, but I don't want Harleys to go away because there's a lot of people that love those bikes, and it brings a lot of people great joy. And even though I'm not into that bike, I would not be laughing if Harleys didn't exist anymore. I would feel awful about that because I know that so many people's hearts would be broken. And so whenever other like content creators or whatever, they're talking about, yeah, it's the death of the inline four. Going into the future, this is the future, the parallel twins and the 3-cylinder bikes and this and that. And I'm going, you freaking bastard. Like what the hell is wrong with you? Because you're like laughing because you're kind of like, maybe you're not into the top tiered super bikes, but there's a lot of people that are. And to wish for the death of something that people love is just wrong. It's wrong to do that. So anyway, here we are. We've got a lot of options. And what does it boil down to? It boils down to whatever your heart, whatever reaches your heart when you look at it, and whatever just makes you go, wow, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And as long as, you can afford it. So in your budget is a huge factor in this. Your budget is a huge factor. But don't worry, because if your budget isn't that great, 15 grand is what Rob got his amazing ZX10 for. And that's a hell of a bike. That's going to get you a long way into like satisfying all of your needs. And the only way that you would think anything about the ZX10 or whatever is if you rode something more powerful, If you rode something that handled better and was more powerful, quicker, and it maybe looked better to some people than the other bike or whatever, and then you rode the other one, and then you'd be like, okay, well, I can see it's little deficiencies here and there, nothing wrong with it, but I'm used to more. If you were that person, then that might be one thing. But if you've never had more than that and you get that bike, it's going to be more than enough for 99% of people, maybe 99.99999% of people. That bike is going to be enough. But when you get into like crazy, like crazy riding, meaning like whenever you're riding with people that are pinning top tiered super bikes and holding them there, and you're trying to ride with people like that, that's its own separate category. I'm not saying there aren't a lot of people that do that. I don't know if there really are a lot of people that do that on second thought. I don't think there is a lot of people that do that. I think there's not a lot of people. There are people who do it, but I don't think there's a lot of them. Most people don't want to go there with good reason. It's crazy. So anyway, that's kind of my answer, Christian Hamberlin, if that's your real name. Ghost. I paid $10 for a 2024 Kawasaki Z650, and my credit score is 750. I got screwed for sure. Oh, you paid 10,000. Okay. First time idiot buyer, I guess. Hey man, don't beat yourself up, Ghost. The thing about when you're buying a motorcycle is if you just hope they're willing to give it to you. You're like, I want this bike. You're actually going to give it to me? Just all I got to do is sign here? It's not really your fault, man, because it's like a weakness. You know what I mean? It's like if a hot chick says, hey, baby, give me a kiss. As long as you're not married or anything or single, as long as circumstances allow it, you're like, all right. You're not going to be like, screw you, get away from me. I'm just using that as an analogy. It's probably a crappy analogy. You know what I'm saying? Some hot chick says, come with me. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like that motorcycle is calling you, and then and they're like, yeah, sure, we got you, no problem. You're not asking what's the cost of it. You're just like, you're really gonna give me credit to buy this, and all I gotta do is make payments on it? Where do I sign? You know why it's like that? Of course, because of the passion for the motorcycle, just wanting to get it. But what was the other thing I was going to say? I lost it. It ran away from me. But as long as your payments aren't too bad or whatever. And look, what's 10 grand anyway? You know what I mean? It's like, it's not that much, man. It's really not. And as long as you're having fun on that motorcycle, who cares? You know what I mean? What are your payments? Like $200 or $300 a month tops? It depends on what your interest rate is and how many years you're paying for it. But man, anything under $300 a month is just like, it's not. I mean, everybody's different, and $300 might be a lot. Might not be doable for some people. I get it, but the thing I was going to say is it's a recreational vehicle. Even if that's your only transportation, the creditor and the system or whatever, it looks at it as like a boat. And whenever they're offering credit, it's always going to be a higher percentage. It's always going to be a higher interest rate because you don't really need it, is how they look at it. And when it comes in terms of paying for your mortgage, paying for food, your electricity bill, gas, and maybe your automobile loan payment, a motorcycle is going to be the first thing on a chopping block because it's not a required thing to live. You know what I mean? It's not a necessity for survival in their eyes. So they're going to be like, so you really want this, huh? And they're going to jack up the interest rate because it's a recreational vehicle, like a boat or whatever, or a jet ski. right? That's how they view it. And even if you have a 750 credit score, which is excellent, by the way, that's really good, you're still going to pay because they know you want it, man. But right now, their motorcycles are not really moving, and so that's one of the reasons why Rob got such a great deal on his, because they're trying to get rid of them. Right now is a great time to buy a motorcycle, apparently. But if you go into a top tier super bike like a V4S or something, you're probably not going to get any break on that. You're not going to get any break. It's going to be the lower tiered super bikes, or like 600. Any one of those bikes are great. They're all great. The SV650 that you have, that's a great bike. There's nothing wrong with that, man. Now, it's not a super sport or whatever, but most people don't even have a motorcycle at all. Having a motorcycle is special. I mean, it's kind of not something that all people have. Not all people are able to have a motorcycle in addition to all the other things I just mentioned: a place to live, and a car, and buying your food and your electricity and water bill and whatever else that you need to pay for to survive. Having a motorcycle is quite a gift. If you have one, you got to look at it like that. And honestly, it really doesn't matter what kind of bike you have. It really doesn't. Just as long as you're happy with it. As long as it can do what it is that you want to do. What do you need to get out of your ride to feel satisfied? I've said this numerous times. For me personally, the bike that I have satisfies all of my needs. There isn't anything left on the table that it leaves me wanting for more. I don't need. Now, this is a serious statement. I don't need anything else. Like I said last night, I've had this bike for 4 years, and it still blows me away when I get on it. And then if I ride something else, and then when I come back to this bike, I rode Tank's S1K the other day. It's a fantastic bike. It's a top tier super bike, the one that he sadly crashed a couple weeks ago. But after riding that and then getting back on my Ducati, I was just like, And it's not just because I'm used to it. It's just, it's just an amazing machine. I feel it was a fluke, and I'm very fortunate to have it. But I think I'm completely corrupted now. I don't know if I'd be happy, with anything less than that now. Oh man, that's a bad situation to be in. Because if I was to buy another bike, the only one that I would really want is the new V4S, and that's $35,000, not including title. It's 40. It's going to be like $39,000. That's expensive, But what do you get? You get a lot. You get everything, more than everything you would want. That's what you get. So anyway. So what's going on in the chat? Linnell says, I feel pretty special having the opportunity to rebuild my little Grom. And the fact that I actually finished it is amazing for me personally. It is a huge accomplishment, Linnell, and you did a fantastic job on it, by the way. Not many people can say what you just said. And so you should feel very proud of it. We're all proud of you for it. I mean, we've seen the pictures, and we've been along with you. We've been with you along the journey because you've shared it with us. And it's fun. It's fun for us to watch you do it and feel proud about it. And then it's also more than fun for you. It's fun, but it was a challenge and a passion. And like I've said before, it's building, it's creating. It's taking something from here to here, and that's a purpose. It gives purpose, and there's a lot of value in that. There's a lot of value in having purpose. Direction, you've got a direction, you got a plan, you've got somewhere, a destination that you're trying to reach, and then It's quite far away, and maybe you've never traveled that journey before, so you don't know exactly the way to get there, but you see it through and you never quit, and then you arrive at that destination, and then it's like climbing to the top of a mountain, and then just like you don't really have much time to look around, and you're busy and you're taking all the steps, and then finally you get up to the very top of it, and you're standing on top. You just look around and you're going, hell yeah. you know, you're like, this is amazing. I did it. But unlike a mountain, building your Grom, you can just ride it now. You don't have to descend back down the mountain safely. Main girl, what's up, main girl? Rick Barry's here. Uh, let's see. Mike says built is always better than bought to me. Both are great, man. Both are great. If you have the skill and the time and the money, dedication to build whatever it is that you want, that is very gratifying. I am a builder. I have built quite a bit of things in my life. Amazing stuff, if I don't mind saying so myself. Things that I could show you that would blow your mind. Right? I'm a very good builder. I can build stuff. I'm not so into that these days, just because I've been there and I've done that. I've built probably the greatest thing I ever built was a few years ago. And I'm probably never ever going to build it in this house. I did all this stuff in this house too. So I built some pretty cool stuff. And I've kind of reached probably the peak of what the coolest thing ever that I'm ever going to build. I've probably already reached that summit. Now I have the skill to just do it, and it's not that hard for me to just whip something up, whatever it is. But I'm not, it's not like my main drive at this point. I've got some other ideas that I would like to pursue, but not able to at the moment. I've got to wait for some stuff, but I don't have any problem with buying something very nice. I bought the Ducati, and it's been wonderful. And I bought the R1, and I loved that bike when I first got it until it started popping out of gear whenever I was trying to shift it. It was false neutraling a lot. And then finally it just got bad, and it just had to go into the shop, and then that's where the nightmare began. But when I got the R1, I was just like, this is amazing. That bike was so fast when I got it, because I was riding the R6 around. And I originally wanted an R1. I picked, whenever I was talking about, looking for bikes or whatever, and you got some time and you're trying to find out what it is that reaches you out of all of your options and whatever your budget will allow. Because your budget is a limiting factor, how much you can put down and what kind of job you have, how long have you been at your job. If you're going to buy credit, that is, if you're not going to just plunk down the freaking suitcase of cash to buy it, which most people don't. Most people buy on credit, so that's what I'm referring to. And then you have to make sure your credit's good. And then depending upon what your income is and how much you put down, that's going to determine what they'll approve you for, what your budget will be. And there's going to be something, even if it's, you would be anybody would be super lucky to be able to get like a ZX6 or an R6, which they don't make them anymore, or a CBR 600 or Gixxer 600, whatever. Even those are awesome. And they cost less, right? So you can get an entry level 600 bike. But anyway, whenever I was looking at bikes, I looked at them all, and the styling, and of course the pedigree and this and that of its racing history and this and that, made me look at the R6. I love the design of the R6. The R6 is the best looking 600 that you can get, in my opinion. It looks way better than the ZX6. No shade on the ZX6, but the R6 looks a lot better. That's just my opinion. And I was buying for me. It's my opinion. I thought the R6 looks a lot better. And and um, I was, and then I was looking at the R1. I was thinking, okay, either one of these, I honed it down to the Yamahas. And I was a Kawasaki. I don't really care. I've owned Kawasaki, Honda, Yamaha, and I didn't really care. Like, I just wanted what was going to provide for me whatever I felt like I needed. And the looks and the styling were very important to me because, again, when you sit on the bike and you're going down the road, do you feel like it's you? Like, does it represent who you are when you're on it? When you're going down the road, is that you? Is that how you imagine yourself? And that's key. And then the R6 had the best racing history pedigree in its class. It's the most winningest bike, right? So, on the track. And I thought, well, if it can do good on the track, then it's going to be able to provide for me what I want out of it. And it did. It far exceeded what I wanted it to do. Until I started riding with people on 1000s. And then I was like, okay, I've got to get another bike. And so I kept the R6, and then I went and bought the R1. And but I didn't get the R1 in the beginning because it was more than I wanted to pay at that time. And I had a really good deal. I got the R6 for 10 grand, brand new. And I thought, I'm just going to ride this around for a while, and then I'll either trade it in on the R1 or I'll just buy the R1 later. And about a year and a half later, I ended up getting the R1 in addition to the R6. And I love both of those bikes, and I felt amazing when I had them. And then the R1 developed a shifting problem. It had to go into the shop. I thought I was going to be in the shop for about 3 months or so, but I was thinking, I can't go without a leader bike, so I'm going to buy another one. I'm going to buy a third bike. So I was going to have 3 bikes. And I had the money to support it at the time. And I was going to get an R1M, but then I decided on the Ducati at the last second. But in order to get me over the finish line on that, I could have went back to my lending institution and said, hey, I'm going to need a little bit. I'm going to need about 5 more grand or whatever. And then that would have been like days or whatever in order to like reconfigure what they had approved me for already. And I thought, I asked the dealer, I said, what about my R6? Can we just make it happen if I just give you the R6? They're like, well, we'll check it out and we'll let you know. And so they went and checked it out. And they're like, yeah, we can make it work. It's not a problem. And then that's how I got it. And then the R1 ended up staying in the shop for 2 years. And that's why I have so many miles on the Duck. It was only supposed to get me by until the R1 came back. And then I was going to ride the R1 around mostly. And then on special occasions or bike nights or whatever, I'll take the Ducati out. On, cars and coffee or whatever, I'll ride the Duck. But it didn't work out that way. So I just ended up daily in the Duck. And now it's got almost 45,000 miles on it. And it's still going like crazy. Mr. Happy, Yamaha is the best looking sport bike. I absolutely love the way the R1 looks and the R6. The way with the headlights that are down under the nose, and they have the daytime running lights, and then the tail on both of those bikes, how like their open tail section is so unique. And the Ducati has the similar tail section. I love the tails on the R1 and the R6. And just everything about it, I thought just looked really cool. Like the ZX6 by comparison, looks like it has kind of like car headlights on it in the front, like off of a Honda Accord or something. And it just, the tail section on the ZX6 is not that unique. Like the R6. The R6 it just seemed like a higher standard of design on the styling. But then whenever I went out and but everybody loves, how people love the H2, right? And it's a great bike. It's cool, whatever. because it's the supercharged. It's like the fastest, most powerful. It has the most power, so it has gained this legend status that everybody just the H2, oh, they just worship it, right? Well, to that, in that same vein, but to a lesser degree, just because it's a smaller bike, people think that the ZX6, because it's a 636 and not a 600 or a 599. See, the R6 is a 599cc, but Kawasaki said, we're gonna make this a 636. So that's 37 more cc's, and we're going to offer it for $2,000 cheaper than the R6, because I was looking at them side by side whenever I was buying the R6. They had the R6 right there, and right next to it they had the ZX6, and I could have got the ZX6, and it was $2,000 less than the 600 Yamaha, the R6. And more people buy the ZX6 because it was $2,000 cheaper. And if that's not enough, it's got more power. It's got a bigger engine. Not so fast. Not so fast. The R6 is faster than the ZX6. Mine was faster than the ZX6 because I raced ZX6s and I beat them. Mostly. A couple of times you get a bad start or whatever, and then somebody jumps out and they beat you. But time after time, my R6 would beat everything out there that I raced in that class. And I was heavier. I was racing people that were younger and lighter than me. They didn't have cameras on. They weren't wearing gear and all this stuff. And then what happened? I remember specifically there was this one guy. He would jump out on me because he was lighter. But then when we stayed in it, the R6 had a higher top speed, and it would start to do this, and it would skywalk the ZX6. And I've got video to prove it. I've got video that shows it. I don't just say it. And the fastest I had that bike up to was 168 miles per hour on the speedometer. But the speedometers are pretty accurate. It might have been off like 3 miles per hour or something like that, if anything, because they use wheel speed sensors. They don't use transmission gear, cable shit or anything like that. They don't go off the transmission. They go off the wheels. And then it calculates from the front and the rear wheel together, and it gets the speed off of that because it had anti-lock brakes and it had traction control. And so it has the sensors on the wheels. So the speedometer is a lot more accurate. How fast was it exactly? Who knows? But 168 miles per hour on a 600 is pretty damn fast. That thing was faster than the ZX6, but it cost more, But I got mine on a special because it was 1 year old when I bought it. It's believe it or not, it sat on the showroom floor for 1 year. And so whenever I was buying it, what happened was, as I looked at it, and I said, okay, and I was just thinking, I'm not really sure if I want this bike. And I saw it at the dealership. And then two weeks go by. But I tell them, I say, hey, look, since you don't have an R1 or whatever, can you let me know if one comes in? They're like, yeah, sure. And they got my number. And 2 weeks later, they got an R1 in, a Raven R1. And they said, hey, you want to come look at it? And I was like, yeah. And that's what got me back after 2 weeks. And they told me the R6 was $12,600 and some change or whatever. And that's before title, tax, and license, by the way. And then, so they call me up, and I go back in there, and then we worked up the deal on the R1, and it came out to be like over 20 grand. It was like $21,000 or some shit. I was thinking, man, I don't know. It just seems like a lot of money, for right now. And I didn't even have a YouTube channel or anything. So I didn't have any YouTube money to pay for it. This was before I started the YouTube channel. And I was thinking, that's a little bit too much, So they were like, well, we still got the R6 over here. And I was like, okay. And they were like, and you looked at it a couple of weeks ago, but it sat here for years, so we're trying to move it. So manager says we can give you $2,000 discount on it. And I was like, oh yeah, so $2,000 savings. It's like, well, work up the numbers and let's see where we're at. And they did. I was like, okay, let's do that. And then that's how I got it. And I did not choose the R1 because of the price. So your budget, and I'm glad it worked out that way, because if I did it the other way, I would have never gotten to experience the R6 and have all of the amazing adventures I had on the R6. All those police pursuits and helicopter pursuits and the racing and just all of the fun and the Hellcat video on the R6. I wish I had the R1. If I was on the R1 during the Hellcat video, that video would not have done. It got over 2 million views. That video, I made a lot of money off of that. it paid for a big chunk of that R6, if not the whole thing. I think I might have. That one video might have paid for the R6. A 2 million view video makes a lot of money. And it was only 6 minutes long, so it wasn't like an 8-minute long or 20-minute long video. It was only a 6-minute long video, and it was making hundreds of dollars a month. I was making like 400 or something dollars a month off of that one video. It's crazy. And I wasn't even going to leave the house that day. I was on my day off. I hadn't had the bike for very long. It was still all stock, basically. Wait, what did I have on it? It had the M4 full exhaust on it, and then it had +2 teeth on the rear sprocket, and that's it. It still had the factory air filter and the factory tune on it. I just put the exhaust and the sprockets on it at that time, and I went and raced that Hellcat. And because of the way it worked out, because of the battle back and forth, because it was a 600 instead of a 1000. If it was a 1000, it would have just been gone, and I would have never saw him again. So it's interesting how stuff works out like that. And then the 2 pursuits down there on the island, both on the R6. Oh yeah, me and that R6 went through a lot together. And you know what? It always got me home, too. And I was getting a lot of flats at the time when I first got that bike, but I was using Dunlop Sport Max Q3 Plus tires. And you know what's interesting about those tires? It has carbon fiber sidewall. And whenever I would get a flat, I could still ride on it, even when it was completely flat, almost like a run flat. But it's not a run flat, and you could crash if you do it, but it's me, y'all. It's me, so I'm able to do it. So, does the Dunlop Sport Max Q3 Plus have carbon fiber in the sidewall? Look right here, I'll show you. Does the Dunlop Sport Max Q3 Plus have carbon fiber in the sidewalls? Yes. Yes, it does. The Dunlop Sport Max Q3 Plus features carbon fiber reinforcement in the sidewalls. Through Dunlop's carbon fiber technology, CFT, to improve cornering stability, rigidity, and steering feel. But they don't mention that you can ride 20 plus miles on a flat tire because of this, which I did. That shit got me home. I got a big freaking bolt in the rear tire, and the tire was almost worn down. It was like I already had the new tire at home. I just hadn't put the new tire on yet because that tire I had on was already worn down, and it got a hole in it because it's like super thin, but it was a big freaking gnarly hole. And I tried putting plugs in it, like 2 plugs, like where I was, and they kind of were in there, but I was thinking there wasn't enough thickness in the tire to hold the plugs in, and the hole was too big. But I thought, hey, I got to get home, and I was 25 miles from the house, so I rode about 5 miles, and and then the plugs came out. I'm cruising down the highway, and I feel, ah, shit, I feel it moving around. I feel, oh no, now what am I going to do? And I thought, I can't, because I brought my plugs and stuff with me, but I was thinking I need to pull over to the gas station to be able to pump air in, and they already came out once, so there ain't no way they're going to stay in there. So screw it. I was 20 miles from the house, and I was doing 90 to 100 miles per hour on the highway, still going around cars with a completely flat rear tire. And what was keeping it up was the carbon fiber sidewalls in that tire, and then just the centrifugal force of riding that fast was kind of flinging the tire out and keeping it into shape. Because the slower you go, the more it starts to collapse. So I know it's completely insane, but I did it, and I did not crash, and I made it home. So let's see if we can get a picture of it. These are the pictures here, but I don't know. I don't see any. See, it's a cool looking tire for sure. See, it has all like this design on the side of it. I ran a bunch of these. I and look, the tread pattern is very nice. See, the tread pattern looks really good on these. Not like those Michelins. If you like those Michelins, there's something wrong with you. Those Michelins are ugly as sin. But people run them, but I don't like them. Like, look at this tire. What is the Michelin tire that's got all that shit? Like all of those like little chunks out of it? Oh, it's hideous. But see, if you're riding a super sport motorcycle, you should have a tire that looks like this. It makes the bike look good, you know. But if you've got Michelin, I don't even know how to spell Michelin. The Road or the Power 6. I think, see, like, see, I see people with this tire right here, and it's like, that thing is hideously ugly, right? But that's not the one that I was talking about. But like this, like, God dang it. But see that right there? That is just gnarly, man. Like, if you like it, okay, fine, but there's something wrong with you. I don't know why anybody would want to put this on their motorcycle. It just doesn't look good. 389. I guess that's for a set, a Power 5 set. Yeah, whenever I see these, I'm thinking, oh man, that's terrible. That's probably a good tire though. I'm not saying it's a bad tire. I'm just saying it's ugly. It's just ugly. That's what it is. It's ugly. With all those like chunks out of it. Looks weird. And if that offends you, too bad. Too bad. You're too sensitive if that offends you. Goat talked about my tires. I hate him now. That Goat, he sucks. You know, he didn't like my Michelin Power 5s. What's wrong with Michelin Power 5s, man? It's a good tire. It's a freaking awesome tire, man. I love that tire. And you know what? I love the way it looks, too. I love the way this looks kind of like a Chinese man face. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like. Looks like it was, you know, like it should have like one of those little rice hats on it. It looked like a little Chinaman. What? Oh my God. What am I saying? Look at this one. It looks like it's squinting. It looks like it's like a face, like right here. Oh, I stab you with my chopstick. I know how to use chopsticks, by the way. I can eat with chopsticks. My wife, she's Vietnamese, so I can talk. I can talk shit. My wife is Vietnamese. But look at that. Oof. God, you don't want to see that, right? But man, These Michelins are hideous, man. I don't know what people are thinking. Golly. Like, look at this. Freaking hideous. That's gnarly looking. It's not the right look for a highly refined, high tech super bike. It's just not the right look for it. And if you disagree with me, well, you're just wrong. I'm right and you're wrong, like usual. Unless you agree with me, and then you're a genius, of course. It's so easy to be a genius, folks. All you have to do is just agree with me, and you're in. You know, so easy. Uh, Main Girl says there's probably a reason for the tread design. No, it's just their design. It's designed to allow you to have some grip in case you get caught in the rain or whatever, but there's no way that those little chunks out. See, whenever you have like those long lines, it gives an escape path for the water that you're going over to escape out of those slots because there's no really end to it. But whenever you have those like little holes, those little chunks out, the water can just go in there and then it has nowhere to go. So it's not really look here. Let me show you something. Um, like let's look at this. You see right here? It's almost like in order to be a street tire, there has to be some kind of a relief in the carcass of the tire to make it DOT approved. Say, okay, well, they put something in there in case you get caught in the rain. At least there's something there. But it's designed really to give you the most contact patch, right? So you can get grip because most people don't ride in the rain anyway. They just mostly ride in the dry. But in order to be street approved, it has to have some kind of a tread pattern. And Michelin says, well, everybody's got lines in it, like this tire right here. Everybody's got lines. We don't want to do lines. We want to make something different and just try to carve our own path, so to speak. And so this is the design that they came up with. And I don't like it. I think it's ugly, right? This right here, is more of a traditional look. This is also a Michelin tire. See, this looks much nicer to me for the type of bikes that we're riding. It just looks more of a race-oriented tire, so to speak. And you see how like these lines are? Now, these are kind of closed off too, but this will give you more escape path for the water that you roll over. And that's really what you want. Now, let me prove it to you even further. And I saw down here, there was a racing rain tire. I saw it down here. Where did it go? Yes. Right here. Like, see, like this is what it's very similar to like a MotoGP rain racing tire is. You see all these lines in here, and you see how like it's got these lines here in the center, and there is no end to them. So as you're rolling over, you're disturbing less of the water on the road because a lot of it is just going in these channels, which allows this contact patch to actually reach the pavement without floating above it. So this tread pattern is here to allow the tire to reach the pavement and not skate over it in a hydroplane. And the way that it's efficient, like this is a really good rain tire here, you're going to be able to go fast over puddles of water like this because the water has somewhere to go, you see. So minimal disruption to the water on the road surface with this tire. Just like you don't want drag in aerodynamics. You want to not disturb the air because the more you disturb the air, it creates all of these vortices and swirling effect, and then that's holding you back whenever you're trying to slice through the air. Like a fish, the way a fish is shaped, how it's like pointed in the front and it kind of gets bigger through the body and then it tapers back down again. That's so it can cut through the water, and the water is kind of spread open as it goes around the fish, and then it's gently brought back together in in a nice, very dynamic, hydrodynamic fashion where it doesn't disrupt the water that much. And so there's hardly any drag on the fish. That's why they can swim so fast. It's like they're just slicing through the water and not displacing very much of it. Well, just like that, but in a slightly different way, you don't want to disrupt the water that you're rolling over. You want to be able to just cut right through it, kind of like a fish through water. And that's what this does. And if you look here on the side, so when you're, notice all of this all the way on the side, because this is a racing tire and you're going to be leaning over to the maximum ability, even in the rain. And the way that you get grip is by having these sipes in here, like this tread pattern. And that, if you'll see, look, it allows it a place to escape. It's got places to escape. So this is a much more efficient way to ride in the rain on a tire like this. But if you have chunky blocks where the water really can't escape, like, see how like it's just blocked out? It helps, but it's not as good as it should be. Then when you get into something like this, now you can see like all these little lines and sipes in here and this and that. Now this is even getting better, but it's still not as good as that racing tire that I just showed you. But this would be better than other, like this right here is not as good in the rain as this. So, and then this I think is not even really for rain at all. But they have to put these chunks out of here in order to get approved by DOT to be a safe for street use tire. Because slicks, because if you didn't have this, it would be a slick, and you're not allowed to. You're not supposed to. Slicks are not street legal, let's say, but a lot of people several people that I ride with will actually ride slicks on the street. But let me tell you, I have probably more rain riding experience than most people, I would say, because I'm an all-weather rider. I will ride in the rain, I will ride in the cold, I will ride in the heat, I'll ride in storms. I've ridden like in all types of weather. But snow and ice, I do not do that. It's not worth it to me. One, it's too cold and it hurts, like your fingers and stuff. It's no good. But it's not worth wrecking your bike. And if there's snow or ice or whatever, that's where I draw the line. If it gets anywhere near freezing, I ain't going to ride. It's just not worth it, because I don't want to crash my bike or get hurt or whatever. It makes perfect sense, right? That's logical. But everything else I will ride in because I like to ride. I absolutely love it. That's who I am. So I will ride. And that gives me the ability to sit in front of you right here and say, I have probably more rain riding experience than almost anyone, except for maybe long distance tourers, like on Gold Wings or something, like where they're traveling across the country and then they put on their rain suits and then they just ride across the country traveling, and it rains a lot during trips like that. But even they may not have as much rain experience in the same way that I do. And it really wasn't even by choice on my behalf, because the weather was trying to stop me from riding. It was fighting me, and I had a war with the weather, and I ended up winning that, by the way, because it realized that I wasn't going to quit, and I gained a lot of rain riding experience. And the reason why I'm telling you that I'm telling you that because I've ridden in the rain on several different types of like high performance sport bike street tires that have different tread patterns and stuff like that. And then I've also ridden on those same tires whenever they don't have any more tread left, where they're basically bald, right? Because when the tires start to get close to the wear bars or past the wear bars, which is where most people ride them. Most people don't change them at the wear bars. Most people will ride them until they got the cords showing on them, right? Which is nuts, but that's what they do. And but what I'm referring to is riding in the rain with bald tires, front and rear. I've done it. And I will tell you that I haven't noticed much difference for me between a tire that's got tread on it, or at least the types of tread that are on the tires that I'm riding, and that same tire but worn down to where there's no tread left. And I've done it with front and rear tires that are like that. And the shape, like if we look at the shape of the tire, you see how like this profile is? You see how like it's got like this really sharp profile right here? This isn't like a car tire. A car tire is square. A car tire is going to be square. It's going to be much wider, and it's going to be square because the cars don't lean. You don't want a car to lean. If a car's leaning in the turn, that's bad. That's why they put stiffer suspension and anti-roll bars and anti-sway bars, on cars to keep them level as they're taking high-speed turns. So, and the square tires help with that too. But cars, if they don't have really, really good fresh tread on them and they try to get out on the highway and do any speed at all, they'll hydroplane all over the place because they're like giant skis. Big, square, wide tires. They don't cut through the water very well. But motorcycle tires, just due to the inherent thinness of them by comparison to a car tire, compared to a car tire, these tires are very thin. Even if they're big tires for a motorcycle, they're still thin compared to a car. And because they're shaped very sharp like this, that enables it to push water out of the way just inherently by that design alone. Never mind, whatever tread pattern it has in it. That's been my experience. Now, it's always better to have some tread on your tire for a number of reasons, not just rain. But I haven't really noticed much difference. And the fastest I ever did in the rain was like 170 miles per hour on the R1. And it was pouring down rain, very similar to what you saw me riding in on the video last night. I had passed a you-know-who, and I was already going faster than traffic, but I wasn't going that fast. And visibility was really bad. You couldn't hardly see that much like in front of you. And there was traffic out there. And he didn't like this. He didn't approve of the speed I was going. So he flashed his lights at me. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning on this. And then I took it up. And the R1 was really, really fantastic in the rain for some reason. I don't know why. The R1 was the R6 was super good in the rain, but the R1 was better than the R6. And then the Ducati is not as good as the R1 in the rain. The R1 takes the cake. And I was running the Diablo 3s. I'll show you that tire. Rosso 3. Right here. It's a cool tire too. See, it's got a cool like lightning bolt pattern. See, that's a cool tire. I did 170 miles per hour on the R1 in a heavy downpour with limited visibility on these tires right here. And the R1 just I don't know, it just cut right through it like it was no problem. And do you see, this isn't closed in like those chunks out of the Michelin. This actually gives an escape path for the water. So this is going to behave much better in the water. And it looks cooler. This looks way cooler than the Michelin. Does it not? I mean, who's going to sit here and tell me that the Michelin looks better than this tire? And I don't even like this tire as much as the Rosso 4s. The Rosso 4s look better than this, in my opinion. But this is a super cool tire. I really like this lightning bolt look. Right? That looks like something that goes on an R1. I mean, it makes the bike look good. Pirelli Diablo Rosso 3 It's a 190/50. That's a small tire. 50 profile is pretty small. Then if we look at the Rosso 4, I'll show you what I'm running right now. This is my tire right now. Uh, this is what I'm running right here. Then that's the tread pattern. Do you see how it's less busy? It shows it's more closer to a slick, right? It has lines in it, but it's less than the 3. All right, this is the 4. And this tire is fantastic. This is a fantastic tire. This is what I prefer to run. It handles great. It's quick. It's grippy. I don't have to warm it up that much. And in the rain, you saw me riding in the rain with it. I had no problem. Now, I wasn't pushing real hard or anything, but I have before with this tire. And it behaves very well in the rain. And you can see it's got a lot less tread on it than the Rosso 3. But I would not feel comfortable doing 170 miles per hour in the rain on the Duck with these tires on it. I have to admit. The R1 with the Rosso 3s performed amazing, actually. I did not feel... If I felt like I was starting to like get squirrely or whatever, I would not have done it. But I wasn't feeling any squirreliness at all doing that. But here's another. That's what the Rosso 4s that I'm using right now. The Diablo Rosso 4. That's what they look like. They still have that lightning bolt kind of look to them, and like an angular. It's kind of like a straight and then it angles. So it's a good looking tire. It's a very acceptable looking tire, right? Now the Super Corsa, I've run those too. The V4 is the last one I used, which was this. Now look, this even looks more like a racing tire. Now these things look amazing on the bike. See, the less busy the tread pattern, the better the tire. You can just tell it. Do you see what I'm saying? Think about the Michelin with all those chunks out of it. And then look at as we've progressed from the Rosso 3 to the Rosso 4 and now the Super Corsa, this one, like, look at the sheen and the shine on it and just the way it looks. This looks like a level above all of the other ones, right? And this tire is more expensive than the other ones, but it wears out really fast, and you have to get heat in them before they really stick because they're meant for operating at a higher operating temperature because they're technically supposed to be a higher performance tire. They're more grippy supposedly, but I have had no problem with grip up until this point with the Rosso 4s or the Rosso 3s. Now, the Dunlop Q3 Plus that I was using on the R6, I had to ditch those whenever I really started going really fast on the R6 down the route, because and on the highway I was riding the R6 to its maximum ability, and those Q3 Plus were starting to chatter out on me like in turns when I was cranked over. So I was running the Rosso 3 on the R1 and it was working fantastic. So I then put those Rosso 3s on the R6, and once I did that, everything was just amazing. I put the steering damper on it, I put the Rosso 3s on there, and I adjusted the suspension in that bike, and I put a quick shifter on it, and that bike was just phenomenal. The R6, it was dialed with the Rosso 3 tires. But then when I got the Ducati, I didn't want to go with Rosso 3. I went for the newer Rosso 4, and that's where I'm at right now. But this is the Super Corsa, and this is the tire that actually comes on the Ducati. When you buy a Ducati, this is what comes OEM. And they wear out fast. They wear out real fast. For example, I used the last front tire that I had before the one that I'm using now. I'm using the Rosso 4 non-Corsa on the front and rear of my bike. But before that, and the I just switched it, but the Russell 4 that I was using lasted 5 months. That's a long ass time. But then I was using this tire before that, and it only lasts like 6 weeks. So it was a massive difference. Let me show you the Rosso 4 um, Corsa, and its tread pattern looks better too. What happened? Oh, hang on. Rosso 4. There we go. Okay. So now this looks a lot like my tire, but it looks more racy than the non-Corsa. So this is the Corsa, and that's a really good looking tire right there. That's really the best of the both worlds, because this tire will last longer than the Super Corsa, and it looks just as good nearly as the Super Corsa. You can see it's got less tread pattern in it than the non Corsa, which is what I'm running now. This is the Corsa, which I've run these quite a bit. The Rosso 4 Corsa, but it's a lighter tire too. So the Rosso 4 that I'm running now is like a pound heavier than the non Corsa. It's at least a pound lighter. So let's see how much it is. Um, on a 260/17 Rosso 4 compared to a Rosso 4 Corsa, what is the weight difference? So the Pirelli Diablo Rosso 4 Corsa is slightly lighter than the standard Diablo Rosso 4 in the 260/17 size, resulting in a weight difference of roughly almost 2 pounds, 1.7 pounds lighter. And let me tell you something. Um, if you have what's called rotating mass, right? And that's your wheel and your tire. The weight of the outside of that unit, which is the rim and the tire, and also the brake rotor and the sprocket, all of that is rotating mass. It basically in that unit, which we'll call the rear tire assembly, right? If you have something that is lighter, see the outside of that package, that assembly that makes up the rim and the tire and everything else. If you have a heavy tire and that's on the outside of the diameter of that assembly, that extra weight, because it's further out away from the center point, which is the axle, that's going to have a greater dynamic effect than that same additional weight toward the center of the hub. So say, for example, you change your brake rotor to let's just say for argument's sake, and it's probably you couldn't do this, but just for argument's sake, let's say that you change the factory brake rotor to one that weighed 1.7 pounds less. The aftermarket one that you put on gave you a weight savings on the brake rotor of 1.7 pounds, which is what we're discussing with the tire. Then, how much would that affect the performance of your bike? Reducing rotating mass toward the center of the hub, how effective would that be in changing the performance of the bike? It would definitely help. It would definitely be something that would be a finite improvement of some kind, right? But then, let's say instead of the brake rotor, you save 1.7 pounds on the tire. Which one is going to give you more performance with the same exact amount of weight savings? It's going to be the tire, because it's further away from the center and it's rotating faster, which gives it more centrifugal force. And that extra weight further out away from the hub plays a much stronger role in how that bike performs as far as turning it, stopping it, and accelerating. So almost 2 pounds savings on the outside of the diameter of the wheel assembly is going to give you a huge performance increase. You're going to accelerate faster, and you're going to be able to stop faster. Because if it weighs more out here, it takes much more force, like leverage, to push something, to push the weight on the outside of the diameter of that assembly than it would if it's on the inside. So a weight savings of nearly 1.7 pounds of your tire is going to result in a massive performance increase. It's huge. And with the tires being lighter like that, and they come balanced also from the factory. They come with a little red dot on the sidewall, and you just line that up with your valve stem, and you really don't need to balance them at that point. I would recommend that you check it anyway. But whenever I was using the Corsas, I've noticed that I didn't have to, as long as it got lined up properly, I didn't have to worry about balancing the tires because they come balanced. And, but one thing I did notice was what I was getting more flex, like more dancing in the corners on the bike. But I think since I've got my suspension dialed now, I wouldn't be opposed to putting the Corsas back on, but they don't last as long. And I don't have any grip problems, but the benefit of having 2 pounds lighter on the outside diameter of the thing that's spinning is going to make your bike a lot faster. And just like the guys in Infamous that I'm riding with, like Diablo and stuff, he's running super courses, which are much lighter of a tire than what I'm running. And he's got a 420 or whatever it is, chain conversion. So he's got a lighter chain, and he's got a lighter tires, and he weighs 60 pounds less than me, and he's on the same super bike that I'm riding. That gives him a huge advantage. I can feel it when I'm out there, so I would need to do the chain conversion and the lighter tires, and I'd have to go on a pretty strict diet, and don't wear any gear, and then I might be able to keep up with them. Bezzy says, I got to go now. Sweet dreams, got an early day tomorrow. Thanks for the stream. Good. Thank you, Bezzy. Thank you so much. So right now, for the remaining time, I'm going to read some of your comments. Freedom says, okay, my chariot is turning into a pumpkin. Good night. Okay, all right, Freedom. Take care, buddy. Hope you're doing well. I've kind of just been talking on my own here, folks, and I haven't been reading chat that much. So if anybody said anything to me and I've missed it, I'm not even going to apologize. I'm going to just say, well, you should have super chatted me, and then I would have saw it. There, that's what I'm going to say. No super chats tonight. No, wow, I did get $5. I got $5. Let me see who gave me $5. Viewer activity. Let's see. Dean says it's exactly like that. Get a bike, get a chick. At 11:07. So that was an hour ago. Dean, I do apologize, my man, for not seeing that sooner. KJJ says, unpopular opinion, I love chrome wheels. They look nice. That is very unpopular, but I admire your courage to admit it. I admire your courage to admit that you like chrome wheels. You like chrome wheels on super sport motorcycles? Or do you like them on Harleys or whatever? Because it depends on the bike, right? If it's a Harley or a Cruiser or something, it's got chrome wheels. It's kind of like the cruisers have a lot of chrome on them, so it's kind of a natural thing, right? But if you're talking about chrome wheels on a sport bike, I I would have to tell you to put down the crack pipe, sir. You need to crack is whack, man. I'm just telling you. Crack is not helping you out here. It's clouding your judgment, sir. If you're thinking you want chrome wheels on a super sport. But hey, man, you do you, bro. You do you. Scotty Ducati, there's Scotty. What's up, dude? Long time no see. I talked to Scotty the other day after Tank crashed. Everybody's like, oh, like everybody's like all up in arms. Tank crashed. Oh, rightly so. It was pretty bad. But I haven't seen Scotty in a long time. That's a shame because his heart must be breaking, not having seen me in so long. I'm fine, I'm completely fine. I'm just worried about him not being able to see me, because there would be a big hole in his life, for some reason. I know his job or whatever, his life, he's always like traveling places, and he has no choice because if he did, he wouldn't do that because the hole in his existence from not hanging out with me or seeing me for so long would just be too great. So there has to be something forcing him to do it that he can't say no to. That's the only way it would happen. So I do worry about your well-being, Scotty, because you haven't seen me in so long. You fly back from home from St. Louis tomorrow. See, he's always out. He's always out somewhere. How am I supposed to see my friend if he's always traveling? Yeah, man. Like, but you, sir, need to be home like whenever I'm off work, so we could get lunch or something. So anyway, anything else? Scotty better have his motorcycle on a battery tender because I don't know how often he starts that thing these days. Crack is whack, Linnell. That's right, crack is whack. And I was telling him if you like chrome wheels on a super sport, the only explanation would be crack, right? That's the only explanation. Have y'all seen those boosters, like those custom boosters that people make, and they do all kinds of crazy stuff to them, and they chrome them out? Have y'all seen? Watch. Oh, do I dare? Do I dare? Do I dare do this? Uh, Custom Maya Chrome. I know it's there. I know it's there. I know it's there. Oh yes. Maybe this is what you're talking about. Like, look at this thing. Look at that. It's a chrome wrap with chrome wheels, stretch lowered, the usual. Look, here's one. Got chrome wheels. Oh, people do so many things to these things. This one doesn't look so bad right here. Like, this one looks really good. I like this one. I like that white with the blue and all that stuff with the black wheels. That looks really classy. I don't like these freaking stickers on the side of it, though. The single seat is cool. I don't like the stickers. Get that off of there. Just keep it clean, and it'll look cool. Out of these, this one looks really good for sure. Then you've got stuff like this. Like, see, it's got a lot of chrome. Some people are just like, wow, that's the coolest thing. And it's cool. It's definitely cool. It's definitely cool. I'm not, people, man, they custom them. They custom them for sure. They definitely do. Look at this thing. People just do crazy stuff, and then they put speakers on them and all this stuff. Oh, Scotty says his bikes are all on tenders. I rode the R1 up to Wolfsmith's last Saturday. See, I'm not off Saturday though, bro. So I can't join you if are you intentionally doing things on Saturdays so I can't come? Is that what it is? Because I'm kind of feeling that way. I'm kind of feeling like, you know, like maybe you don't want me to be there. That's the only reason why you'd go Saturday instead of a day that I'm off, right? Look at this thing. Got the tribal flames. Got chrome three spokes. People do crazy stuff to the Busas for some reason. I don't know what it is about the Busa that inspires people to do stuff to them so much like this. Look at that. Somebody put a lot of money and a lot of work into it to create that thing. Some more of like a traditional look. This one might even see, like this one doesn't look so bad to me. This one looks like it. I don't know. Just the look of it's nicer. See how it's less customized. It might even, I don't know if it's lowered or not, but it's got this cool exhaust out here. Some of these are just like oh my goodness. Look at this thing. Call me weird, but they got the big tire, and the different swing arm and the big tire Busa. Look at this one. Got my lights. Gotta have the lights. Light is cool though. Light is something very special. Kind of a more traditional looking one. But people do crazy stuff to them. They do. I don't know what inspires people concerning the Busa. Let me see. Most awesome Hayabusa. Let me just see what comes up. Just your standard one. I was chasing that dude on the Busa. He just had exhaust on his, and it looked good. Look at this thing. That looks cool. See, this is more my speed right here. I wouldn't mind having an older Ducati. That looks really cool to me. I don't even know what model that is, but I love that tail, and that looks really cool. Look at those multi-spoke angled wheels. Like, that thing looks killer, doesn't it? And I'm sure that's a twin, like an L twin in there, but I would love to have one of those. Look at that. Now we're talking. That's more my speed. I love these things. I wouldn't mind having an older duck like one of these. Look at that. That thing's beautiful. I like these bikes. There's a front view of it. That's pretty cool looking. Yeah, I like that. That thing's gorgeous. The black wheels and everything. Looks nice. That's more my style. This Busa looks pretty good. But see, it's just factory, It's not customized. I like it just normal because that way you can ride it like the guy that I was chasing out in the country the other day can just it runs good, This guy's like, are you intentionally working on Saturdays so that you don't have to see me? All right, that was a good comeback. I have to give you credit for that. Might be home next week. Yeah, who knows? I'm not holding my breath. Calvin Cross, what's up, dude? Desmo Sedici. Desmodecci. Is that what it is? A Desmodecci? I don't know. It's cool, though. I like it. I like this thing. I wouldn't mind having one. Now I work on it myself. All right, Nick Nack, take care. I'm out of here, you guys. We have reached the 2 hour mark. We were just kind of all over the place tonight. There was no rhyme or reason. And I had a subject to talk about tonight, and that was going to be the misconception that people have concerning motorcycles and how they are supposedly a threat to other people's lives out on the highway. So people leave comments because they read it somewhere else saying, like, endangering other motorists' lives when you ride a motorcycle up through traffic. And that is so not true. And that was going to be the subject for tonight, but we just kind of ran off in different directions. But I really do want to talk about that. And we've done it before, but most people are not educated on this subject. Motorcycles do not pose a large threat to the public. They do pose a large threat to the rider themselves, but they do not pose a significant threat to other motorists in cars. Even when motorcycles run into cars, they just bounce off of them, basically. Are there freak accidents and chances, and have there been people killed by speeding motorcyclists? Absolutely. But that's usually like a T-bone where they run into the driver's door at a high rate of speed or whatever. But most accidents between motorcycles and cars are either left turners, the car turns left in front of the bike, or they're all traveling the same direction, but a bike might run into the back of a car or sideswipe it or bounce off or whatever. And most of the time, the vast majority of the time, like 99.99999% of the time, nobody in a car is injured. And people are just programmed to think that a motorcycle going around cars is endangering the public, and it really isn't. It really isn't. Now, I'm not saying there's zero danger from doing that to the cars. I'm not saying that. But there isn't even a category for people injured or killed in cars, traveling in a car, that their injury or their death was caused by a motorcycle. There isn't even a statistic for that that I've been able to find. There might be some category buried deep in some government statistics somewhere, but as far as what's available for me to find, I haven't been able to find any data on that whatsoever, except for it's such a low number that it doesn't even have its own category necessarily. So there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and that's a big one. A lot of people have problems with that, so most of it's based on, because they feel like if you want to risk your own life, you're crazy, that's fine, go ahead. But when you start to endanger other people's lives because of your lack of or irresponsible behavior, that's when I draw the line. And most people, they just are just programmed to think anything like that is going to be a huge threat to the public, and it's really not. That's what I was thinking about we would talk about tonight, and we may do it maybe tomorrow or something if I remember. But thank you guys so much for being here. Take care, Scotty. Take care, Lucas, Z, Calvin, Nick Nack, and Sidewalk Star, Z. Yeah, they just bounce off. And Miki and Bezzy and all the rest of you. Thank you so much for being here. It's been fun, but I am out. I'm going to be gone in 3,